All right, welcome to the show. Today we have Jeremy Eubank. Jeremy serves as the Athletic and Activities Director at Prince Edward County High School in Farmville, Virginia. He's committed to education-based athletics, focused on building a culture that emphasizes leadership, character development, and a student-athlete success. His work centers around strengthening athletic programs through strategic planning, operational systems, and community engagement. Jeremy brings a versatile background in athletic administration with experiences across both independent and public school settings throughout Virginia. This perspective has allowed him to implement adaptable systems, build sustainable programs, and connect school communities through a shared vision of athletics and activities. He currently serves on the board of directors for the Virginia Interscholastic Athletic Administration, VIAAA, as publications vice president and is incoming VIAAA President-Elect. He's also a VIAAA leadership training course instructor and serves on the publications committee for the National Interscholastic Athletic Administration Association. Woo! Tongue twister like there. Jeremy, welcome to the show. Appreciate you being on.
Absolutely. I'm glad to be here.
So let's dive in and kind of just, if you would, let's just kind of start with how did you get into being an athletic director?
Yeah, absolutely. I got my start back in around 2011 in coaching public school, my former high school that I graduated from, which was Alta Vista High School. Really grew into that. Loved working with students. Um, Allowed me to kind of reinvent myself into athletics, sports, things of that nature. I'd been working in business prior to for about 12 years, and then really got into private school education. And then I'd say 6 years ago, 7 years ago, I got my first athletic administrator job full time, and it's kind of taken off from there.
Why the shift from private to public?
Absolutely. I think the biggest shift that I would say is paying it forward. I am a big person in believing in adding value to what you feel like you are meant to do, right? I think the biggest thing for me is I really enjoyed my public school upbringing. I really enjoyed the opportunity that it gave me to build relationships with student athletes or students, and also the faculty and staff that I was able to work with as a student athlete. Now, as an athletic administrator, and making this change his first year at Prince Edward County High School.
What sports did you play growing up?
I played them all. My main sports were basketball, soccer, track and field, and cross country. I did give basketball up the last 2 years of high school. I was fortunate to run um, a little bit further in my career for all 4 years, and then soccer couple of years of college.
So you played sports in college. Let's talk about that. Where did you go to college? And then how did you juggle athletics and academics during that setting?
Yeah, I grew up in the era of non-NIL and transfer portal, obviously,
you
with the
you and me both.
dinosaurs.
You
Yes.
yeah.
I think the biggest thing for me is balancing out work-life balance, workload balance, really in college, and understanding how that pertains to real life after school, after college, after you go to that phase of being a young adult, right? And then you've got social responsibilities. You got adult responsibilities, I'd like to say. I think the 2 years was a blessing of being able to play collegiate soccer. And I really enjoyed my time. But I think the other aspect of it is too, I learned a lot about myself and just coaching and working with students and what that really meant to me at the end of the day, which really wanted me to bring back a lot of the opportunities that I had as a student athlete, both at the high school and collegiate level, to implement as a coach and now as an athletic administrator.
You brought up NIL, so I'm going to go there. And we're recording this on June 2nd, so it's literally 48 hours since the transfer portal has opened up for Division 1 baseball, and I think actually not softball yet, just baseball. Um, Tell me what you think about that, and maybe maybe more importantly, how that's trickled down into the high school ranks? Like where are families' heads, athletes' heads, parents' heads at when it comes to transfer portal, NILs, things of that nature, and into the high school realm?
Yeah, we obviously follow as athletic administrators what they do collegiately or at the university level and how that trickles into the high school level. I think the misconceptions are is that we are all connected as one because we are in this big
Yeah.
universe of athletics or sports. That is not the case. Obviously, the NCAA and different aspects of that play a different role in what that looks like, right? And I think the biggest aspect for me is that I try and forewarn parents what you see on television is not real life. It is not really what happens at the high school level, and what we experience here in Virginia, right? We do have some policies that are implemented. We do not have the Wild West like you can see at the collegiate level. We do not experience a lot of that at Prince Edward County. We are a very small rural area, about 530 to 550 students, give or take. So it's a lot more popular, I guess, topic in the bigger cities like Richmond, Northern Virginia, Virginia Beach, where you have a mass amount of schools that you could go to within a school district or neighboring school district.
Do you feel like there's been a shift or a change in participation levels at the high school level? And I guess if so, like why do you think that's happening?
I do think there is a shift. I think it's intentional in that when students get to the high school level, there's a number of factors that can contribute, whether they need to work to help contribute to the family bills, interest lost, coaching, array of different things that can go on in a person's life, right? I think in what I have seen, we have seen a little bit more of an uptake in our participation in athletics and activities across the board of Prince Edward County, just because of some of the initiatives that we are trying to do to promote participation. That structure that it provides allows for us to be able to do some of the things that I know I benefited from as a high school and as a collegiate athlete. And now as an athletic administrator that I just think are necessary to make a well-rounded individual, if that makes sense.
No, I was on the, obviously I'm a big believer in it. I played throughout high school and college and a very short stint professionally. My wife has played throughout high school and college. My daughter played throughout high school and college, and now my son's in playing in college as well. So it's it's something that we bleed athletics here. Um, so I know how important it is, and there's just data upon data upon data that says keeping kids in activities, maybe not just sports, but keeping them active and involved can really allow them to have a brighter future and keep them out of trouble. Right? It's been known for 100 years. So what are some of those initiatives? What are some of those things that you're doing there to help keep kids in sports or activities and keep them involved?
Absolutely. We are adding wrestling. We are also adding esports here at Prince Edward County High School as well. I think the biggest thing that is allowing us to do is that we are being allowed to um, include students that are not normally in that area of team athletics. And now they're going to have an avenue to participate in team sports on top of other avenues that we're creating that we're going to reward our student athletes like a 3-sport initiative. So what that really means is that student athletes will be given the opportunity if they attend 100% of their games, 85% of the practices, and they do one sport or one activity per season, not 2 sports or 2 activities or vice versa in a season. They'll get some swag or some merch, and then they'll get a pizza party at the end of the school year.
Right.
Obviously that's asking a lot of our coaches and our sponsors to track attendance, track discipline, things of that nature. However, at the end of the day, the selling point to my coaches or the sponsors that we have is if you want to have teams or if you want to also have successful teams, you need to be able to have the students to be able to participate. So if we can fundraise some money to do X, Y, and Z or give students the opportunity to represent their school, we should reward them in taking that time and effort, just like you do as coaching or sponsoring an activity.
Yeah. And have you found that this initiative is working? Do you have any sort of data to suggest that there's X amount of percentage of more people involved?
So we did this at my last school, and we saw probably a 20% increase across the board between male and female. We saw a greater increase in female students compared to male. This will be the first year we do it at this school in Prince Edward County, and I'm excited about doing it because obviously we have a larger sample size than the private schools that I was at. I think the biggest thing that I'm hopeful for that we will see is we have a very large freshman class coming in. So I'm hopeful that that correlates to the opportunities that we're going to give them initially for their high school experience for 4 years.
Have you ever received any sort of pushback from, certain coaches in certain sports, wanting that, I'd say, not to throw football under the bus, but a football coach, wants them in the weight room. They may not want them playing another sport, or they're, say playing basketball, losing weight because of, the conditioning that takes place in basketball. Anything like that of pushback of, hey, I wish my student or my athlete didn't play 3 sports. I'd rather they be with me more so I could help them grow within the sport that they're best at. Anything like that?
No, not at Prince Edward. We have done a good job of having an all-inclusive culture where we understand we are sharing athletes or students across the board for 3 seasons. We are very strategic in how we are doing all-season training, where we're not burning the kids out. We also understand that we want to also respect family time with family vacations during the summer, as well as their commitments throughout the school year, both academically and athletically. I think the biggest thing that I've seen is if there was a concern about, hey, we have 4 open gyms for 3 sports seasons, during a given week during the summer, how do we choose as a parent to send our student to X, Y, and Z? I think the biggest thing is understanding that, a portion of each open gym is a weight room session. Then on the field stuff, maybe you go to weight room for one of the activities or sports, and then you go to the last hour of each open gym for that said sport, right? I think that's the correlation that we are getting to. That's the correlation we're starting to have those conversations for our coaches to understand. We don't want burnout. We want our kids to be able to be well rested for when we start back in late August.
Do you allow them to, if they play a sport, to get out, I say, to get out of physical education, or is the athletic activity part of physical education? Like, I know some schools do that. How does that work there?
We don't. There is a physical education requirement for VDOE, Virginia Department of Education. And I think the biggest aspect of that is we are one school district. So we have one elementary, one middle, one high. That actually offers us an opportunity to teach some fundamentals to some kids that may not have seen that, right? Or may not have the experience enough to where they feel comfortable. And it really allows us to reinforce the athletics and offerings that we have to really try and build out rosters for some of our teams or activities that we may be offering for this coming year, or they have not been afforded the opportunity in physical education, but now are being afforded the opportunity because we have the resources or the tools to have exposure to new athletic offerings for our students, right? Both as a physical education and now as an athletic offering in the afternoons.
Now you're maybe a new age athletic director. Would you say that? Cut from a different cloth a little bit. Definitely active on social media. Tell me, or tell us, why do you think that's important to your role in the school and in the district?
That is a new terminology that I've heard. Um, I will say I'm a little bit of both, right? I'm born and bred what I would say is very much a disciplinarian. I'm very upfront with my student athletes that you will not be on my fields or courts unless you have the grades, the discipline, and the attendance to perform, right? I think the actual new age or cut from a different cloth aspect of it is there are so many technologically advanced opportunities for athletic administrators to make our job a lot easier because we do have to be a Swiss Army knife, right? We do need to be able to handle multiple things as they come in. I think the biggest thing that I feel like I've done is been able to use that technology to afford me a work-life balance, right? That's important. I think the second aspect is to create habits or procedures or SOPs for me to be able to function daily, honestly, to be able to get my emails done in the morning, to be available in the afternoon for my coaches, because we have 90% out of building coaches, right? I think the other aspect of it is to be available for our students, and I think technology helps because we all want to be promoted as far as our athletic programs and our students. I think we have done a very good job of that here at Prince Edward. I think the opportunity we are presenting is just through some of those opportunities of being cut from a new cloth of the technology advances of, like, we have a work-based learning class that we started this year where I'm able to use my business background on top of incorporating classroom with education for students that want to be in sports business or marketing or other items pertaining to that, right? Where they are fundraising for their athletic department, and it speaks volumes to our community that our student athletes are giving back in an academic setting in doing that, right? I think the other option with that is technology has afforded us the opportunity to use Handshake through colleges and universities locally, through Longwood University in Hampton-Sydney, to start an internship program. My last two schools, we did this. It went very well. It is, I guess, a running joke in Virginia is, Jeremy, how many interns you got this year? Because we saw the full fleet through social media, and I was very blessed to have 10 last semester, and I think that those 10 learned a lot about sports, athletics, operations, but I think it also speaks volumes to new age technology where a lot of Zoom meetings, Microsoft Teams, whatever you want to use, right, on top of the platforms have been very versatile in allowing us, this Prince Edward County, to try some different features to allow multiple users to help with the workload of an athletic administrator.
Yeah, and let's talk about that workload and that work-life balance. As you said, you're there early in the day, starting work early, meeting with coaches throughout the day. You're there during a normal school hour, and correct me if I'm wrong there, but then I believe you probably need to be at darn near every game or event, right? So that kind of goes through the night, through the weekends. Like, talk about that work-life balance, and most importantly, how does your family handle you being gone as long as you are? I'm sure.
I appreciate you asking me that, Tony, because the first thing I will say is I have a very supportive wife and daughter that understand what my role is, what my passion is, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them, honestly. I think the biggest aspect that I would say is, in this role, there's a lot that you carry, not just as a family man, as a person that is forward facing, right? But we have a new administrative team here at Prince Edward County High School, from the superintendent, the high school principal, our assistant principals, and myself. So, the running joke is we are always the forward facing people, myself, the principal, and the superintendent, especially in a rural area. Which is good and bad, obviously, right? But I think the other aspect of that is that work-life balance for us, and in particular for athletic administrators across the country, I would say, is the opportunity for us to get the culture out that we're trying to establish, right? On top of the fact that we are balancing it out between the academics, the athletics, and being here by 7:30, understanding what the game schedule is, right? I am a creature of habit. I am very much a opportunist of making sure that our game schedules are done a year in advance. Everybody knows me to know that when they see an email for scheduling for 27, 28, that I'm ahead of the game. Knock on wood, I'm 95% done for the upcoming schedules, with just a few things for the spring to do. I think the biggest piece of that is being a creature of habit allows me to use my Google Calendar, like my Bible, as well as Google spreadsheets. And then being able to have key contributors like my interns to assist with some of those things that, not minimal tasks, but could be deviated so that I can focus on some of the bigger asks that my principal, my superintendent are asking me to do.
Yeah. And I love what you're doing with the internships. I mean, obviously it helps you with work-life balance, take some of that off your plate, but you're really embedding some of your students into the day in the life of, maybe not just an athletic director, but an administrator in a school to say, hey, this might be something that I want to do one day. And we all know we need, more high quality teachers and faculty in the school system. So, you're training them right out of the gate. So hopefully do you have, I mean, I'm jumping all over the place, but do you have any data or, ideas to suggest that the ones that you worked with in the past are now going on into college and working in education or currently today in education?
Yeah, no, there's about 5 right now currently from the last 6 years that have either actively coaching or teaching, or that will be an assistant AD or AD in the next year. There's a couple that are coming back to me next year for a second year of an internship to be able to further their resume for sports or athletics or athletic administration. I think the biggest piece of that is to, I don't sugarcoat. I am very realistic. I'm very upfront. I think the aspect of that is for them is that they get to see that on the back end of what the day to day is, what the thick of
Yeah.
it is, being comfortable with the uncomfortable of having to make tough decisions, and you're not going to make everybody happy.
Right. Right. Um, I know you've used this terminology before of I get to, as opposed to I have to. So going back to that workload balance. What is it that you enjoy most? What is it that you get to do that you really enjoy to do, as opposed to, hey, I have to do this, as a part of your day in the life of an administrator?
Before I answer that, at least I know somebody saw my reel. That makes me feel better, right? No,
You
honestly,
got one follower.
yeah, for sure. Honestly, I would say being able to work with students and seeing them succeed on and off the field. I think going back to my high school experience, I had a number of friends that did not go to college but were successful high school athletes. I had a number of friends that went to college that were successful at the high school level athletically, but have also succeeded in life as well as job and things of that perspective. But I think the other aspect that's afforded me the opportunity to broaden my horizons as well as look at the bigger picture of the relationships that I built with coaches, teachers as a student athlete in high school, in what I want to do here at Prince Edward County High School as their athletic administrator.
Uh, we're basically a little bit over that halfway point, so I do want to take a quick break for our commercial sponsor here, Rally for
Yeah.
One, which helps offset the cost of sports participation and helping with fundraising for schools. So let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Fundraising shouldn't feel overwhelming or take time away from the people you're leading. Rally for One is a digital fundraising platform built for teams, schools, and organizations that want results without burnout. Using email, text messaging, and social media campaigns, Rally for One helps you reach more supporters, raise funds faster, and get paid out without selling products, managing inventory, or running stressful in-person events. It's simple, fast, and it's profitable. With done-for-you tools, real-time transparency, and zero upfront costs. One cause, one campaign, done. Learn more at rallyforone.com and follow Rally for One on social media for tips, stories, and fundraising insights built for leaders like you.
All right, welcome back. We appreciate that word from our sponsor, Rally for One, helping schools and sports teams offset the cost of the daily grind of education and sports. We talked the first half here about kind of everything that's involved with being an athletic director on your side and on the personal side of it. But if you don't mind, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the role that the parents are playing, and the role that you and your coaches can play with the parents. Any You've been doing this for, you said 12 years now?
I've been in education about 12. This is either year 6 or 7 as an athletic administrator. They kind of blend together after time.
Yeah. So maybe more focus on the last 6, 7 years. Have you seen any changes with students, with athletes, with families in their role that they're playing? Um, any changes that you've kind of just noticed, or that you and the other coaches talk about, of this is different?
Yeah, and I'll kind of use our initial topic of NIL transfer portal as kind of a baseline, because I think that false reality of, hey, we need to get recruited to the best college and university for athletic and academic achievement or potential achievement, right? That's kind of out of the window from a reality standpoint. And what I mean by that is that most colleges and universities nowadays, because there's so many kids in the transfer portal, it doesn't matter what sport. Any of the sports will have thousands of kids each year. What you're seeing is that colleges and universities are focusing on that student athlete that has a year or two of experience, because they've proven themselves at a collegiate level compared to a high school level. So you're not seeing a lot of the Division 1 or Division 2 schools, or even NAIA, that can offer scholarships athletically to take a chance on a high school student compared to a collegiate student that might have the grades to get in, that have the athletic achievements to be able to perform at a high level. So that's reducing the number of opportunities other than Division 3, and maybe some NAIA schools to be able to offer some scholarships to incoming freshmen, um, at the high school level, right? And I think that perception is growing because we have challenged our coaches to be a little bit more real. It's really less than 2% of the top tier student athletes in the country that get Division 1 scholarships to go on to play collegiate athletics, right? And it's really those mainstream sports that get a full ride, not track and field, lacrosse, unless you're that top 1% in the country for lacrosse or whatever, you're not usually getting that full scholarship. And it's usually divided up between academic and athletic money, or potentially some NIL, depending upon the size of the Division 1 and or Division 2, right? And I think that's kind of, and I was talking to a friend about this yesterday, that's kind of why you see colleges and universities going the LLC route for NIL to be able to happen to a certain degree, depending upon what their bylaws and rules and regulations are.
So, do you feel like it's more demoralizing then for the athlete to be like, hey, I'm 18 years old now. I've been playing this sport for 10 years. I feel like I'm really good at it. I don't see any reason why I can't go on to play college. Like where's their head at? And how does your coaches work with these students and families to say, hey, like, first off, maybe it's okay if you don't go on and play, like, because it's normal that most people don't.
Correct. We are very real, and we've had that conversation here at Prince Edward with our coaches that, our goal is to help you with your goals and aspirations, right? As a coach, a leader, a mentor, role model, whatever you want to call it, we want to help you with your goals and aspirations. However, I think the biggest thing that we have done is we've been very real with our kids that, hey, we see you at this level. That's why we're pushing you at Division 2, Division 3, right? I think the other aspect of that is that I think parents appreciate an honest feedback, because they don't want to be spending, hours filling out a FAFSA, filling out questionnaires, traveling to different schools that they don't have any business going to, or doing college visits over the summer that are not needed when the kid either A, can't qualify, or they're not going to get an offer to play compared to a walk-on, right? And we all know what a walk-on means. It means they just want you to enroll so the school gets the money, and then you'll sit the bench for however long it may be. So I think that's the one thing that we have done a good job of intentionally here, is that we have had those conversations, is that we need to be open and honest and tell our kids that these are the schools we want you to focus on if you want to play college athletics.
Yeah. And then again, we're in June here, and in June they're talking about passing the 5 years to play five. Yeah. Do you think that will help these high school athletes, and it help or hurt? And then is there a different pathway for them now?
I do think it helps. I think the biggest thing that I've seen so far is there's a lot of good questions that are coming from that. I think it's educating parents what the options are, and that it is not a bad thing to go to a community college or a JUCO, whatever you would like to label it, right? I
Yeah.
think the biggest aspect of that is also keep in mind, even if you go to a junior college for 2 years, you're getting your general education requirements done, right? You're building your GPA if you did have a lower GPA. You're also establishing your, I guess, playing career at a collegiate level compared to a high school level. So if you're fortunate to get that opportunity at a junior college or 2 year school, take advantage of it, right? I think that plus one is allowing the opportunity to have a different mindset that I don't think a lot of athletic directors, coaches may have realized this might be a road that we might need to take compared to the road less taken.
And it's a much more affordable option for many families, right? You go and take your first 2 years at a junior college or community college. It can be much more affordable than going to that $80,000-$90,000 school.
It does, right? And I think that's the other aspect of it is too, right? College costs so much nowadays. Are we making sure we're doing an affordable option for our parents and our students that are not going to put them into debt so much when they leave or graduate college or university?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully that will pass. We'll find out here soon. It does sound like it's going to, and it'll be interesting. There's always the unintended consequences of some of those changes like that, but so far it looks like it seems to be very well supported by almost everyone.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. What's a myth that you think your students have, your families have right now, like about education and sports, and the kind of the holistic look at the student athlete?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I've seen over 6, 7 years is the, I guess, the attention to the recruiting from a collegiate aspect where, hey, we reached out to this coach. Why hasn't he gotten back to us? If you send in your film, I would hope out of just pure, out of respect that people would get back to you. But I also think that, you know, be aware college coaches, assistant coaches in particular, probably get hundreds of emails of kids to look at daily. And it takes some time to look at film. It takes some time to evaluate, right? I think also understanding what's realistic and what will be an opportunist for you to promote your son or daughter to get recruited is another aspect of it, is that they look at, what does their social media say about them, right? Do they have character flaws? Do they have opportunities where, in a month's time getting on campus, they're no longer going to be there, right? I think that's I think that's one aspect of it. I think the other aspect of it is we talked about that 2%. Not everybody gets the opportunity to participate. And I think that's the harsh reality that a lot of parents face or are not willing to face, that it could possibly end, if not will end, after high school.
Yeah. We haven't talked about club sports, and the role that or impact that has on the athletics side of things at the high school level. Are you seeing some pressure from the outside sort of club world to interject into the high school side of, hey, you're too valuable, you're too good, I don't think you should play? I'm a basketball player and I travel all over the country and play basketball in a club setting. You shouldn't play for your high school team. Any sort of tension between club and high school on your side?
We probably have two handful of students that probably play club or travel between basketball, volleyball. We do not have a lot, obviously, in a rural area. In previous stops that I have been, we've had a large number of kids between baseball, volleyball, and basketball. I think the reality of it is some of it helps. I think the other issue is you really have to find a club coach or a club that is invested academically to know what they're going to be eligible for, which is the other 50% of the puzzle, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the myth. I think growing cost of club fees is another thing that parents don't understand is they've got to make money to be able to pay these travel fees as well as the coaches. Is the cost going to outweigh the benefit based off of the level that your son is playing at high school wise compared to club wise, right? And a lot of the areas I've been in or have been rural areas for, I'd say 37 years, my 40 years of being here, right? I've been in rural areas. So we don't see a lot of club compared to high school participation just because the emphasis has been on the high school level because of where I've been located.
You know, I started my career in education. I taught for 5 years. I coached baseball and girls basketball for 4 or 5 years there in high school. You know, reflecting on that, you know, I came out of college and playing actively all the time at a really high level, and I probably had a lot more uh, piss and vinegar in my veins as a coach. Um, is there any and I reflect on it and I wish that I had a little bit more coaching, like coaching the coach, right? For me to be more understanding and um, you know, not so sort of young and energetic and fiery. Do you have anything for those new coaches when they come in to, you know, to teach them the educating some, you know, peer mentorship programs? Like how do you coach that guy or that, you know, that woman who's first starting in education, who's first starting as a coach?
Yeah, we do some onboarding. We definitely have an onboarding process checklist as well as we use a Better Way Athletics. Their curriculum really speaks volumes into education-based athletics, which has been a big component of us here at Prince Edward County High School. So we really enjoy that aspect of it in regards to the curriculum, the feedback we've gotten from coaches, as well as allowing us to reinforce from a role model standpoint as a coach to our student athletes.
Seems to be working pretty well for you.
It does. It does.
Okay, good. Well, tell me, in your role that you're in right now, what's one of the kind of coolest, most memorable experiences you've had as an athletic director?
Um, there's been so many, I think, from my first stop as an athletic director is, the first time in school history, a team qualifying for states, right? I was very fortunate that I was the coach of the team, also as the athletic director, because it was a very small private school. Um, I think the other aspect of that is that, seeing the rewards that I've of these student athletes here at Prince Edward has been the biggest thing. It's just the impact of providing opportunities as well as just the relationships you build in public school education. You really can't get anywhere else. And I really thank our superintendent and our principal for the opportunity that they have afforded me to be able to do this at this school.
Well, you're obviously very, as you said, very detail oriented, and you know you already have things planned out in advance. But what keeps you up at night? You know, when you roll over at 2 a.m., something pops in your head. I need to do this. I forgot to do this. I better start planning on some things. Like what are the things that if you happen to roll over at 2 a.m. that wakes you up that you just got to do? Like what keeps you up at night as an AD?
Yeah, no, I think a lot of that comes down to trying to use my calendar reminders so I don't think about a lot of that overnight. I think one of the things I've learned over time, especially the last year and a half, is I don't take a lot of work home anymore. There's a few things that I do on social media just through my phone that I'm able to do, but that's about it. There's not much that I usually take home. Um, the way that I've kind of changed my perspective is based off of if it's in my inbox and they didn't call me, it means that it could wait till the morning, right? I think the other aspect of that is too, if there is an emergency or things that I know that I'm going to have to deal with, a lot of that just comes down to is just trying to get the facts together as well as the notes and try not to worry about it because at the end of the day, you can only control what you can control. So,
Yep. It is so Is your daughter active in sports, or does she see dad is so active in sports she's like, I don't want to be involved in that?
No, she is. We have not pushed, right? And I think that is the key to a lot of this is they will come to games every now and then. They also understand that it's 16, 18-hour days. So I don't push them to come to the games either, just because I know it's a long time for them too. She is starting to take the softball a little bit, which is good. We want her to be active. She loves to swim. I think we will kind of see where that goes. That ship could go in any direction any day with an 8-year-old. So we are kind of letting her do what she wants to do for right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Excellent. Um, when is your opportunity to truly take some breaks and to check out? Is it the summer months? Do you legitimately get some time off in the summer? Is that a loaded question?
It's a very loaded question. In all honesty, like we've been out for about 2 weeks now, or probably a week and a half. And we still have athletics going on. Like, we just finished up regionals last week. We had for track, and then we have states for track this week. We had regionals for tennis this week, right? So the calendar is a little off than the school calendar for athletics, but the planning and all that for next year usually happens during the summer. So that's part of it. I think the other aspect of that is too, I usually take as much time as I can during the summer because we also get the holidays during the school year, right? And I'm very intentional with the time that we get off during the school year. But like I think the work-life balance for me in particular is like we work Monday through Thursday here from 7:30 to 4:30. So I'll use that time, right, to go play golf, right? And a lot of that is my therapy to be able to decompress from the day or the things that we have going on, and just go out with my buddies and just have a good time. And it allows us to talk about ideas or them to steal my ideas and then they take credit for it at their school or whatever you want to call it.
And you said about me seeing one of your reels. I do remember seeing a post or a reel in that regard about how important you felt golf was to your athletic career, athletic director career. Talk a little bit more about that. Of you guys as a group, you get together, you talk shop, like do you decompress? What does that do for you? It sounds like more mentally than physically.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is I turned 40 this year, and the running joke is how is Jeremy going to keep his competitive edge without being able to compete like on a regular basis? So golf is part of that, right? Is being able to face the challenge of a bad shot, which happens more than once, right? Also the opportunity of using that competitiveness against your friends, but also it, we do talk shop sometimes, but a lot of it is an opportunity for us to get away from the office and not to really check our phones, honestly. Like we do check our phones if, we see that we have 12 missed phone calls from our principal or whatever, like we'll take some time to do that. Right. But like, I think a lot of it is we really just try to disconnect. Um, I have a strong group of 4 or 5 and they are they have been through it with the thick of me. Uh, and I think it's vice versa. I think the fact that, every morning I wake up to something ridiculous from them and then vice versa in the evenings. And then, hey, Jeremy, we need your help on this or whatever. And, we're able to talk through a lot of it. And I think that's what a lot of people don't see on the back end of, you know, golf is that 4 or 5 hour window that we actually get to be on a golf cart and we just get to be regular people, right? Because when we are out in public, hey, when's the next football game? Hey, what do you got going on for the athletic department? All right, you don't get a chance to just be a normal person unless you have been in that boat as an athletic administrator. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, last question for you, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
What's 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the road? Your athletic career is over. You hang up the coat there. what's your legacy? Like, how do people go back and look at the career of Jeremy and say, what are they going to say about you? You know, that's really the question there is, what do you want people to say about you 20 years from now? What legacy? What was your purpose? What did you leave
So
on education?
that's a very loaded question. Um,
Sure.
I would say someone that genuinely cared about education and based athletics that had true standards and pillars for what they stood for. Right. I think the aspect of that is for me is I will not be somewhere where I don't believe in the mission and the vision. And I think that's something that we have done a great job of this first year here at Prince Edward County High School that we are going to continue to do for years to come. Right. I really enjoy my superintendent, my principal, and our admin team, and just everybody that I've been able to be a part of, right, in a small community, because that's what I grew up in for 37 years. When we moved to the big city, my family and I think the biggest aspect of that is we didn't know what we didn't know, right? And being able to drive through a couple of stoplights to get to school now compared to having a 30 to 45-minute drive to go 10 miles, it's a big difference, right? And I guess your standard of living is also better when you get back to the things that you get to see in a bigger picture at 30,000 compared to 10,000.
Great. I appreciate your time. Before we let you go here, since you are active on social, how do people listen to this? How do they follow you? You're on Instagram, you're on LinkedIn. What's your channels if people can follow you? And uh, give us
Absolutely.
a little
So
plug
I'm
here.
on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok. Everything is Jeremy Eubank AD or just Jeremy Eubank. Um, and then you can see a lot of my content that we do is really day in the life of an athletic director, kind of the back end tools and resources. Social media nowadays gives you a lot of opportunities to see what it is to be like an athletic director. And we didn't have that when I was coming through the ranks, right? And I think that's one of the ways that I can get back is kind of sharing what my day looks like.
Well, we appreciate your time here. We appreciate your ability to follow you in your journey and everything that you're providing, not only to your school and your school district, but to everyone on the social side of things as well. So, Jeremy, you're off the hot seat. Appreciate your time. Thank you for doing this, and good luck to you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Tony.
Absolutely. Take care.